Alright, I want to go over the homework for finding the x and y intercepts, so this will be the solutions to this. Number 1 said find all the x and y intercepts of the equation y equals 2x minus 7. Remember, in the Cartesian plane, we have the x-axis and the y-axis, and when the graph is crossing the y-axis, suppose we have a graph like this, right here, the x value is what? We didn't go right or left any on the x-axis when it's crossing the y-axis. So when x is 0, we get our y-intercept. Okay? And right here, what's the y value when it's crossing the x-axis? The y value is 0 there. So we get our x-intercept when the y value is 0. So that's what we'll use to solve these. For this one right here, to find the y-intercept, I'm going to put 0 in for x. So 2 times 0 is 0, minus 7 gives me the y-intercept to be equal to negative 7. And I would just want you to get in the habit of writing this as an ordered pair. So my first one will be when x is 0, y is equal to negative 7. The next one, I'm going to put in 0 in for y, that's a 0, and then solve for x. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides, and then divide by 2, and I get 3.5 is equal to the x-intercept. So x is 3.5 when y is equal to 0. And that's number 1 for us. This one says find all the x and y intercepts of the equation y equals x squared minus 3x minus 10. So we'll put 0 in for x. And that gives us y equals negative 10. So I'm going to put this as an ordered pair. When x is 0, y equals negative 10. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put 0 in for y. Just have to rewrite that equation. I'm just going to erase this. Now, some of you were confused when you put 0 in for y how to solve this. We want to solve this by factoring. So put 0 in for y. And when I factor this, I'm not going to go through factoring here. That's good for another video. You can look that up somewhere else. But I'm going to say 1 times negative 10 gives me negative 10. I'll just briefly factor here. I'm not going to try to explain it. Factors in negative 10 that add up to negative 3. I get negative 5 and 2. Multiply, they give me negative 10. Add it, they give me negative 3. And because the leading coefficient is 1, I can use the shortcut and say that this factors to x minus 5 times x plus 2. So I've got two numbers, when multiplied, give me 0. So that means either x minus 5 is 0, or x plus 2 is 0, or they're both 0. So solving this one for x minus 5 equals 0 gives me x equals 5. Notice if you put 5 in this equation, 5 squared minus 15 minus 10 will give you 0. Subtract 2 from both sides here, you get x equals negative 2. Once again, put it in here, negative 2 squared is 4, minus 6, not minus 6, plus 6, and then minus 10 will give you 0 as well. So that tells me x is 5 when y is 0, and x is negative 2 when y is 0. And those are my x and y intercepts there. This one says find all the y-intercepts of the all the x and y-intercepts of this equation. Once again, if I put 0 in for x, what I end up with is 3 times 0 minus 2 over 0 plus 1. All of that equals y. So this gives me negative 2 over 1. And so y is equal to negative 2 when x is 0. So that's one of my intercepts. When x is 0, y is negative 2. That's our y-intercept. Some of this you treat it like this was factoring, like you set the numerator equal to 0 and the denominator equal to 0, and you got two different x-intercepts. You don't want to do that. Remember, these aren't, it's not like you took an equation and factored it. You got a division going on right here, so it's not factors of a larger polynomial. So what you need to do is put 0 in for y and solve for x. So when I put 0 in for y, I get 3x minus 2 over x plus 1. And I'm going to multiply both sides by x plus 1, that denominator there. Well, x plus 1 times 0 gives you 0. And then solve for x, add 2 to both sides, and divide by 3, you get 2/3 is equal to x. So when x is 2/3, the y value is 0. There's my x-intercept. Another thing to think about, because some of you did set x plus 1 equal to 0 and treated that like it was an intercept, remember x plus 1 cannot equal 0 because it's in the denominator. So if you put -1 in here, plus 1, you end up with 0 in the denominator, and we can never, ever, ever, ever divide by 0 in math. So just look out for that next time you're doing something like that. Find all the x and y intercepts of this equation. So let's put 0 in for x. We get -2 times +2 times -1. That equals y. Well, -2 times 2 is -4, times -1 gives me +4. So when x is 0, y equals +4. Now let's put 0 in for y and solve. Well, if y is 0, right here, I've got 1, 2, 3 numbers being multiplied to give me 0. So one of these is equal to 0, or all of them are. So I'm going to set each one equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 1 equals 0. Whoops, messed that up. Let's back that up. And then solve for this. So x equals 2, x equals -2, x equals +1. And so when y is 0, you get 3 different x values. And we graphed these in class. We're like, wow, 3 x-intercepts, what's that look like? You can do the same thing. You can head over to Desmos and graph it. You'll see it cross those spots. And it's not a bad idea when you're doing your homework. You can check your answer doing that, and you get used to seeing what these graphs look like. So there's your intercepts there. Find all the x and y intercepts of this equation. So let's put 0 in for x. When you put 0 in for x, what do you get for y? Well, 0 cubed minus 0 is 0. So when x is 0, y equals 0. That's both an x and a y intercept there. And now, just like the other one, if you put 0 in for y, you're going to have to factor this. So 0 in for y, and when we factor, we pull out an x, we get x squared minus 16. And then factoring x squared minus 16, that's a difference of squares. We get x minus 4 times x plus 4 times x. And so each one of these we have to set to equal to 0 like we did in the last one. So either x is equal to 0, x minus 4 is equal to 0, or x plus 4 is equal to 0. Well, that means right here we're to get that solved for. This one gives us x equals 4. This one gives us x equals a -4. And so when y is 0, we get 4 for x, and we get -4, and there's our intercepts. We already have the x equals 0 one. That's when y is equal to 0, right here from the y-intercept we found. One more here. Find all the x and y intercepts of the equation. Now, I'll go ahead and put 0 in for x. And so we get 2 times 0 plus 5, which gives us 5 is equal to y. So when x is 0, y is equal to 5. Now, some of you here got a little confused with the absolute value signs. You took and made this a -2x plus 5. And so you broke it up into 2 spots. I think you're thinking of solving absolute value equations, which is great that you're already thinking about that. But keep in mind, if y is 0, then whatever we stuck in here can't be negative nor positive. 0 is neither negative nor positive. So we don't have to really worry about the absolute values here, because we know whatever we put in here is going to give us 0, and the absolute value of 0 is 0. So we're just going to treat it like a linear equation. 2x plus 5 is equal to 0. Subtract 5 and divide by 2, and you'll get the value for x. So the graph crosses here at -5 over 2 is equal to x. Not equal to x. I'm doing this video late at night, so I'm getting a little tired. -5/2, comma 0. And there's your intercepts here. And so if you're a little confused by that, let's look at Desmos, and let's graph number 6 there. So if we have y is equal to the absolute value of 2x plus 5, so equal to, down here we can hit the absolute value, and we get 2x, that's what 2x looks like, or the absolute value of 2x, and then we're going to do plus 5. And so look at our intercepts here, we can kind of check and make sure we are right. One is at 0, 5. We found the y-intercept doing that. Let's see if I can move this over, you can see it. See, we had 0, 5. And then the other is at, well, it says -2.5, 0. It's the same thing as we have over here, -5/2. And so you can kind of see now what that looks like. So I want to encourage you, when you're doing all these weird equations and finding the x and y intercepts, hop over to Desmos.com, click on Create a Graph. It doesn't take long to graph it. And then you can kind of see what it looks like. And you get kind of used to the absolute value looks like this V, and so it'll benefit you in the long run and it'll make the rest of the class a little bit easier as you go down the road. Okay? Hopefully this video helped. Let me know if you need any more help, and thanks for watching.